Good Trouble. Stories by Joseph O'Neill. Read for you by Danny Cambell, Robbie Daymond, Arthur Morey, Mark Deakins, Mike Chamberlain, Allison Ryan, John H. Mayer, Cassandra Campbell, Mark Bramhall, and Kimberly Farr.
Pardon Edward Snowden. The poet Mark McCain received an email, which had been sent to numerous American poets, inviting him to sign a poetition, requesting President Barack H. Obama to pardon Edward Snowden. The request took the form of a poem written by Merrill Jensen, a writer whom Mark knew to be 28 years old, a full 9 years his junior. The poem petition rhymed Snowden with pardon, and pardon with rose garden, and rose garden with nation, and nation with Eden. It rhymed, or, as Mark preferred to put it, it echoed Putin and boot-in, and Clinton and no disputin'. Russia echoed USA, and USA Thoreau, and Thoreau hero. Mark forwarded the email to the poet E.W. West. He wrote, "Am I crazy to find this enraging?" Within seconds, Liz wrote back, "No." They arranged to have coffee that afternoon. In preparation for the meeting, Mark tried to organize his thoughts. His first point, of course, was that the very idea of poem as petition was misconceived. A poem was, first and last, a ding an sich. It definitely wasn't a message that boiled down to a single political humanitarian demand. It made no sense for an agreeing multitude or mob to undersign a poem. You could no more agree with a poem than with a tree, even if you'd written it. Of course, the signers of the poetition would argue that they were associating themselves with the text's petitionary substance, and not with its formal properties, and that in any case poetry is a sword of lightning that consumes its scabbard. But accepting all that, Mark mentally counterclaimed, why not just have a petition in the form of a petition? Why drag the poem into the muck? Because, the undersigned might reply, a versified petition was likely to attract more attention and be more consequential than the alternative. To which Mark would answer, the good of poetry resides not in the... He began to feel a familiar dialectical dizziness. He set off to meet his friend, even though it meant that he would get there 20 minutes early. Liz was waiting for him when he arrived. They hugged. The moment they took their seats, Liz said, "Well, are you going to sign it?" Mark said, "I don't know. Are you?" Liz said, "Not my problem. Nobody's asked me to." Mark paused. This was a complexity he ought to have foreseen. With extravagant bitterness, he said, "Oh, they'll rope you in." Liz mused. "I did a reading with Merrill in January." Mark had attended the event, as Liz well knew. "I felt bad for him," he told her. "You really showed him up. Without meaning to, of course." He went on. "Look, I do think this thing is chaotic. They're basically shooting out emails at random. And I don't think Merrill is a vengeful, petty guy. Far from it. I think his heart's in the right place. Ish. But you know what? I could be wrong. He's obviously interested in a certain kind of success." Mark stopped there, and was glad he had, even though he loathed Merrill Jensen. Whenever he badmouthed a colleague, however justifiably he regretted it. Strange, just how draining an effort of tact was required to get through the day without badmouthing another poet. In this instance, he felt, he hadn't thrown Merrill Jensen under the bus. He'd dissed him only in order to express solidarity with Liz, and only to that extent. Liz doubted that Merrill had overlooked her because she'd shown him up at their reading.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?